release of Super Mario Odyssey was met with an incredible amount of praise. As someone who felt that Nintendo completely delivered the goods with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, this got me excited about Mario Odyssey. As a series veteran, I hoped for a game that would capture my imagination as much as Mario 64 had done back in the day. This may sound like I'm dreaming the impossible dream of reclaiming my inner 12-year-old, but Breath of the Wild gave me exactly that feeling when I played it. In this video, I wanted to briefly talk about why I think that while Super Mario Odyssey lays a solid foundation for a potential sequel, I probably won't count it among my favorite entries in the series after the dust has settled. By doing so, I wanted to provide a little bit of counterweight to the many outlets that claim this game to be a transcending experience, often brushing aside some of its shortcomings. This video features endgame content, so I recommend finishing the game before viewing. To start things off, I think Super Mario Odyssey is a great game, but it falls short in some areas that I consider to be a core part of the Mario experience, namely the way the player is rewarded and the sense of discovery. I've seen people mention here and there that not every moon in Super Mario Odyssey is a winner. This to me is an understatement. Many moons are just laying around the world map, waiting to be picked up as the player casually strolls by. Other moons require the player to purchase a new costume in order to unlock a door on the map. Initially, I thought that these elusive doors would lead to a platforming challenge of some sort, only to be met by a single room with a treasure chest holding a moon. Many moons are obtained simply by turning a corner, slamming your butt into the dirt, or even by buying them. Super Mario Odyssey is probably my favorite entry in the series when it comes to actually controlling Mario. The 3D Mario games have always been about using the impeccable controls to your advantage to pull off insane jumps. But for every expertly crafted platforming challenge, there's a bunch of moons that you will just simply stumble into. This happens even after finishing the game, with many of the post-game moons mimicking the exact same patterns. The moons are even explicitly marked on the map with an X. This particular power moon in the Luncheon Kingdom is one of the many that simply ask the player to walk or swim to a spot on the map and perform a butt stomp to claim their reward. Completing a Mario game has never been unreasonably hard, but especially towards the end, they tend to offer a fair bit of challenge. In Odyssey, it sometimes feels like Nintendo wanted to make 100% sure that everybody would make it to the end. However, with the inclusion of an assist mode and two hint givers in the form of Toad and the Parrot, I feel like the game was already extremely accessible. More than that, obtaining a moon just doesn't feel that rewarding when it happens every other minute, especially when there is zero challenge involved. Up until this point, stars and shines have always been used in 3D Mario games to commemorate the completion of a certain task. With the way Super Mario Odyssey throws its moons at the player, it's sometimes difficult to feel excited about your progression through the game. This brings me to the lack of discovery in Super Mario Odyssey. The game doesn't just throw moons at you, it's generally far too eager to show you everything it has to offer. Although moons can be collected in a random order, level progression is extremely linear. Something I have always adored about the Mario series is its penchant for hiding secret pathways for the player to discover. These actually make for some of my most vivid gaming memories, like how the kid next door would come over one day to show me how to get the warp flute in Super Mario Bros. 3. Or how I called up my best friend the first time I gained access to the Star Road in Super Mario World. Or how I looked into the light in the castle hallway, only to be transported to a different world in Super Mario 64. I always loved finding shortcuts, and the way Super Mario 64 allowed you to choose which level you wanted to go to. I loved the Galaxy games all the same, because it was clear that they were taking a different approach by focusing on pure platforming. Still, by returning to the sandbox style, I was expecting that Odyssey would rekindle this lost sense of exploration. The first time I found a portal, my heart actually skipped a beat, wondering where it would take me. In the end, almost all of these portals lead to a secluded part of a different level. All you can do here is grab a moon that's right in front of you and gaze into the distance at a level that will unlock once Nintendo thinks you're ready for it. Nowhere in Super Mario Odyssey did I find something that surprised me as much as when I was sucked into a haunted house after ground pounding a boo in the palace courtyard in Mario 64. Taken as a whole, I would say that Super Mario Odyssey seems a little bit too eager to show the player everything it has to offer, and in doing so, it sometimes forgets to proportionally reward them. I was very excited to reach the post-game content after hearing that there was still so much left to do. Learning that many of the new moons were just as easily obtained as the regular ones was a little disappointing. The post-game kingdoms sadly aren't much better. The Mushroom Kingdom taunts the player by invoking memories of Mario 64, but really only offers retreads of earlier challenges. Once the player reaches Peach's castle, it appears to be a hollow shell of its former self, and the only thing there is to do is for the player to talk to Toadette, who will reward them for challenges that have apparently been completed throughout the story. Collecting 500 moons grants the player access to the final level, the darker side of the moon. I may be asking for much, but one final kingdom to reward the player for all those hundreds of moons collected would have been a great send-off for this game. But sadly, the darker side of the moon is just one long platforming level that's fairly challenging, but doesn't really seem to match the effort that went into collecting all of those moons. Super Mario Odyssey features a ton of great ideas, a beautiful world, and fun challenges, but it tends to spread itself a little bit too thin. My hopes for its sequel are the same as my hopes for a follow-up to Breath of the Wild. Just for once, I hope Nintendo doesn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, and works on the incredibly solid foundation of both games to deliver an even better follow-up. I hope you enjoyed this brief critique of an otherwise great game, and if you did, click over here to watch the first part in what someday will grow out to be a series on the writing of Hideo Kojima for the Metal Gear games. This channel is hosted by my friend Tayo Inc., so make sure to check out his Let's Plays, and also tune in to our podcast, Game Honey.